he had a dream of being like the largest political commentator on the platform, but he did become it. It was, however, the wishes of many other people. Many other people, like, I would say, a lot of my naysayers on the liberal side. So cute, my little Hasanito. His chat was just celebrating trans people being banned from the military. Some were saying it inspired them to enlist. That's the funniest joke I've heard. I'm imagining a fucking Asmongold fan in the military. That is hilarious. That's not happening. American military superiority in the shitter, okay? First of all, that's definitely not happening. Oh yeah, I was gonna join the military. The one thing that was stopping me is the fucking trans people in the ranks. Okay, bud, sure. Okay. How about you take a shower first, okay? Baby steps, big guy. Baby steps. You know, take a shower, maybe go outside, see the sunlight for once, and then you can consider these other big decisions, okay? I think these guys forget that, like, you can't just be a drone operator and be permanently transfixed on your couch where the leather has basically become your second skin, where you're just like melting into the couch, and then you use like your little Xbox controller to use the drones. You still have to do like military drills and stuff, even in the Air Force, the chair force. So anyway, I'm also saying he's not the biggest political commentator is fucking crazy too. No, Asmongold 100% is the largest political commentator on this platform, which is interesting because that is precisely what people wanted. Not Asmongold personally. that wasn't Asmongold's wishes. I don't think he had a dream of being like the largest political commentator on the platform, but he did become it. It was, however, the wishes of many other people. Many other people, like, I would say, a lot of my naysayers on the liberal side. I won't even name them, but I'll name one of them, Sex Pestany, for example, in his community, consistently created allegiances and you know, used every moment that they could to disparage figures that they considered to be the true threat to liberal values. People like myself. People who have not strayed away from being anti-fascist, even a little bit. Now, having said that, the misconstruing the point that you're saying they wanted another dissenting voice in lieu of you just bringing up his name, this is not a What? No, they wanted a dissenting voice. They got it. What do you mean? Unless you meant, oh, they only want one dissenting voice, and that dissenting voice is a sex pest and a serial harasser of virtually every fucking content creator that dares to, you know, hurt his feelings. Is that what you're saying? Because that is what they were. Yes, that's what they wanted. But in that process of disparagement, there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of charitability that was cast aside for someone like myself. And luckily for all of those naysayers, there is a dissenting voice now. This is the dissenting voice they got. Real monkey's paw situation for them. I agree with you about post-Asmon's rise. Once they realized the Frankenstein had been created, they've been relatively critical of him. Yeah, except they also do still cherish and celebrate when Asmongold takes pot shots against me. Because a lot of these people, no matter how hard they act like they're liberals, still care about drama more, and they still care about disparaging content creators that they feel have wronged their intellectual titan. that's the thing about being in a cult-like community where you don't have like a real moral compass. Some do, certainly. They won't actually recognize what they've been doing nonstop. But, you know, they got it. This is what they wanted for, and they got it. So I don't know why they're complaining. Now, the original comment... Yeah, the original comment came when Asmongold incorrectly said, where is it? It's on Twitter. Let's just pull back a little bit. I don't know why Asmongold was watching stuff about, you know, I don't know why he was watching this, probably to fucking dunk on this like woke lib or whatever. But here is a person correctly talking about what the Nazis had done in terms of the first famous book burning that they engaged in, which was a library, a German library filled to the brim with medical research and data about trans people and queer people in general in Germany.
Remember that the Nazis burned the books that the Nazis burned books on gender sciences.
They did do that.
Correct. Asman is correct. Starts off good. Okay. Great. Good start. Okay. If the clip ends here, if it's a 12-second clip, you know what's really funny? If you clip Asmongold out of context, it sounds, you know, normal and good. When you show additional context, it turns into the diametrical opposite, which is fun. Like from my ideological perspective, maybe not from others, but from where I'm standing, if someone had clipped this in the first 12 seconds, you're like, oh, good ending. Okay, great, cool. Which is ironic because my haters do that shit to me all the time, where they clip me out of context to make me assume positions that I don't have. And then when you watch the longer footage, you're like, oh, never mind. I actually totally got this wrong. So let's see what the rest of the context is, or what he continues to say after.
First, now the administration has villainized and marginalized migrant workers, trans.
It's a bit of a miss. Like, my understanding is that they burned them not because it was gender stuff, but because it was written in Jewish and not German.
This gets me every time. I'm sorry. Okay. Obviously, Jewish is not a language, and it certainly wasn't written in Hebrew, because that came after. I mean, Hebrew existed as a language, but wasn't as commonly used until after the Israeli state was designed. What he might mean is Yiddish, but even then, it's most likely not the case. Okay, most likely not the case that these books were written in Yiddish. Okay, which I guess is technically Jewish German when you really think about it. But also, that was the argument that the Nazis had maintained, which was that this research, whether it be for trans people, whether it be queer people, is un-German. So why do you keep saying it absolutely could have not been Hebrew? Because Hebrew was not a commonly used language until before 1948. It was most German Jews spoke German and Yiddish. And also, yeah, it's not an academic language anyway. No academic would write a book in Yiddish. Also, Yiddish is just a dialect of German, so it's more like some specific words than an entire language. Exactly. I've talked about this before in terms of like the linguistic wonders of the nationalist project of Israel that revitalized the language of Hebrew. Hebrew was not a vernacular language at the time. It was mostly, it was almost wholly liturgical. This is a liturgical language. It's like revitalizing Latin, okay? And then making it the common, the common language. So at that time, it was simply liturgical. It was a religious scripture, religious text. and it was not a commonly applied normal, it didn't have normal colloquial usage. This is something that Israel actually did in terms of revitalizing Hebrew and making it the nation state's language after 1948. This is why I say there was no way that it was written in Hebrew. Now, of course, Asmongold doesn't know any of this, okay? We're not, like, I'm trying to offer you additional context, and Yiddish in and of itself is basically a German language with, you know, some, like, it's not a language that would be used in academic settings as a written language. It was just a German sounding, like a variant of German almost, if that makes sense. Again, Asmongold said neither. He just said it's written in Jewish, which is, one, wrong in and of itself, completely wrong. I'm also offering to you the additional context as to why it's wrong, giving you relevant historical data about the language of Hebrew and where it got to, and what kind of dialects that German Jews had used. Okay, Jewish is not a language; it is an ethno-religion. But also, last but not least, the Nazis were the ones who claimed that this was un-German. Specifically, a little-known guy by the name of Joseph Goebbels. So you don't have to apply their logic in the year 2025 when we already know that that was the wrong logic, right? The notion that, like, Jewish people are not German in 1934, 1935, 1938 was not correct. They were German. They were German Jews. Just like Jewish Americans are American Jews. And they're not a specific subsect of society. They're not, like, you know, out there as a alien formation, as a separate group. Okay? So that's just something important to address, even though I never thought that it would be necessary to address.
And it was like a retaking of Germany for Germans. That was like the uprising of the Nazis. So it was like, yeah, they were. I think it probably might be both in some circumstances, but like it was categorical for it not being written in German.
It was written in. Okay. The other part of this is that even if the books weren't written in the German language, which they were, but even if they weren't written in the German language, that would still be fucking insane to just burn these books. Okay? Just so we're clear. See, the benefit of learning about history is so that we, of course, in theory, don't repeat the mistakes of the past. That's number one. Number two, the second benefit of learning about history is that we don't have to assume the positions that the Nazi government took and like take their marketing around the actions that they took for granted. We don't have to take it at face value, is what I'm saying. Right? Based. Isn't this general knowledge? Is he pretending? I mean, to be fair, I don't think a lot of people knew that the first book burnings that took place in Nazi Germany were queer research. I was not even familiar with this, around 6 years ago. That was the first time I found out about it. I don't think it's like super commonly. I don't think it's super common knowledge. Some people know. I think a lot of people in this community know, but I'm sure queer people know because it's like queer history, but it's not W. Adolf, insane. But regardless, it doesn't matter. What matters is the truth. What matters is learning, okay? Learning about what actually took place. So I will repeat this once again. To claim that the Nazis actually burned these books because they were not German is to assume that Joseph Goebbels was correct in his assessment that you have, let's say, like a 1930s German nationalist style of thinking, right? Take the Holocaust, for example. It would be akin to saying, well, the Jews that were sent to the concentration camps initially were not sent to the concentration camps on the virtue of being Jewish, but they were sent to the concentration camps on the virtue of being a parasitic force that was outside of the interests of German patriotism. Okay? Do you understand? It's technically not incorrect if your assessment is what the Germans were thinking at the time, right? But it is incorrect if you are describing historical events in 2025. That was their claim. And there is historical relevance and importance to address what they were saying, as long as you don't relitigate the Nazi framing as though that is the appropriate position. Do you think a streamer's chat is a one-to-one reflection of that streamer's beliefs? Absolutely not. And the reason for why I will say that is because there are plenty of people who don't agree with me, who fucking hate my guts, that come into this community all the time. There are hate raids that happen. I do, however, think that the streamer can try to do their very best within the limited confines of moderation to make sure that, chat behaves a certain way or has certain opinions. Okay? Like, a similar example is when I sometimes talk about, I talk about Israel all the time. And in the process of me talking about Israel, there are sometimes chatters who get a little ahead of themselves, okay? And what do I do in that process? I click on their names, I pull them to the public square, and I give them a hefty little ban. This is what is known as pushback or housekeeping. Ironically enough, there are plenty of people that still turn around and say, I don't do any of that, as a matter of fact. I'm the most anti-Semitic community of all time. But in any case, they will use the clip of you saying moderating the chat is hard. Yes, I know they will. And I will explain that position once again, as I have done time and time again, which is that there's only so much moderation you can do if someone, for example, if Asmongold came up to me right now and said, hey, Hasan, your chat is calling me a Nazi sympathizer, right? I would say to Asmongold what I told Ethan at the time a long time ago, which is that if you walk like a duck and quack like a duck, there's only so much moderation I can do to stop people from assuming you're a duck, okay? Just so you understand, that was the point that I was making, which was, of course, clipped out of context as well, because many people don't actually want to have a real conversation, but instead want to speak in, 12-second increments. I hope that much is clear as well. So yeah, there's only so much moderation one can do in terms of making sure that chat reflects a certain set of values when, people are still individuals that can make up their own mind about certain issues, and many do. And a lot of people actually yell at me in my community for having opinions that they don't align with or don't agree with. This happens all the time. This is why there are millions of compilations out there of me yelling at my fucking chat all the time. Okay? Like when you cried to XQC, am I right? Yeah, so that's another good point, actually. Here's one thing you can do, which is not actively claim that a person is snaking you and lying to you when all evidence actually shows the exact opposite. If you're comparing like someone very deliberately and very specifically portraying another content creator as a fucking hate, as a beacon of hate for all things wrong in society, or especially in your community, that's a little bit different in terms of like demanding some semblance of moderation. I'm glad that we're understanding that different dynamics do exist and that you can't actually rob conversations from the nuance that it deserves. I'm glad that we are finally at that stage. Anyway. So, your boy XQC was crying about not having friends. I wonder why. I mean, this person, I don't even think cares about XQC all that much. I think this person is probably just a hater of mine, ironically enough. Like, I don't think he said that to defend XQC. I think he said that specifically because he's seen that clip and he thinks it's a good own. All right. A person I know watches Asmon and he questions all the simple shit and thinks Hasan is weird. And I asked him why he watches Asmon even though he's a fucking loser. And he said it's because he's funny. He said he just likes asking questions. And I told him he sounds ignorant in the way that he questions shit, that he can look up himself and he just repeats what he hears and sees in clips, self-admittedly too. I think a lot of people do this. People in this community do this as well. But I try to do my very best to at least make sure that you come in here, whether you're a hater or not, you come in here, whatever your intentions are, you leave learning a different perspective. You know what I mean? When you talk about Stalin, there are a lot of W's in the chat. Yeah, exactly. No, that's great fucking example. Yes. Yes, 100%. I think you probably mentioned that as like an own or whatever, but yeah, no, that's a great fucking example. 100%. This is the difference. Like, I don't have a fear of showcasing like socialist iconography or defending certain aspects of previous formations of socialist governance. Like, there is plenty of criticism that is appropriate for Stalin, obviously. But in terms of, especially in the context of Nazi Germany, yeah, no, that is a W Stalin moment, you know? That's a W Easy Company moment. That's W to the United States of America. And that's a certain W for Stalin as well in terms of ridding the world, at least for a brief moment, of the Nazi scourge. So, you know, big fan. Greetings from Vienna. Nice. Okay. So, yeah. Anyway, W England moment too, sadly, is true. I hate to recognize that especially, but yeah, it is true. As a W England moment too. So, yeah. As far as all of this goes, like this is exactly what I warned ahead of time and time again, saying that if you even make jokes, edgy jokes, even whether you agree to it or not, edgy jokes that kind of, make Nazis feel comfortable, you will develop an entire chat that says W-based when talking about how Nazis were engaging in book burnings of queer people in general. And of course, that's the first stage of this process, because what comes next, if you are familiar with history, is then taking some of that research, finding who the gay people were or who the trans people were in German society, and then branding them with the pink triangle, and then sending them to the death camps and killing them. And that's what happened. Okay? It's kind of the real reason why you learn about the history of Nazi Germany. It's a reason why we have an entire field of study dedicated almost specifically to the Holocaust. Okay? There are entire fields of study surrounding genocides in general, but there's also Holocaust studies as well. And the purpose of learning about the Holocaust is so that we understand how nationalism manifests, what the conditions look like, and understand that there are certain markers when a society is moving in that direction. And the reason why you learn about this is so that you don't repeat these mistakes, right? He wants to debate. Can you take it? Yeah, of course. I would love to talk to Asmongold about this. And specifically, educate his community on the matter.
hiện在太陽放入放高峰呢，是做太陽是毛色都飞，看看到我们的职业班呢，这里本身当家。